Alright, so let's get going. Today's demo is going to be on the isometric grid. Isometric grid. Let me say that clearly. Alright, so you'll notice when you open this file, the isometric grid is not actually locked, and so I want to make sure that you lock it so you don't end up losing it. So we're going to go into View, we're going to go down to Guides, and then we can hit Lock Guides. And you can see that's Alt Control plus the colon. So lock your guides, make sure that that's done. Once your guides are locked, you can actually design in them using your pen tool and filling each shape that you close up with a solid color. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in there to get nice and close to the center, get my pen tool out, and then I'm going to click on these actual anchor points. So clicking up. By doing this, it ends up kind of creating a shape, and then we can fill our shape with a color. So I'm going to just pick a color, any color, hit OK. Now here, with the shape actually selected, we're going to continue using the pen tool, but we want to make sure that we don't click on an anchor point that's previously existing. So I'm going to hit P to get my pen tool again. You can see it right there. And I'm going to click on a location that's away from the shape that I just built. And that way it gives it time for that shape to get deselected, so I don't accidentally get rid of an anchor point. So something like that. If I don't deselect and I start here, it'll actually delete an anchor point, and that's not something I want to do. So let's do undo. Again, click here. By clicking away, it just makes sure that nothing ends up happening to that previously existing anchor point. I can also use Control and semicolon to make the grids disappear, and that's right here in View, Guides, and then Show Grids. So Control semicolon. That can make it like show up and disappear. So Control semicolon, View, Guides, Hide Guides. That's right there. Okay. So I'm going to continue, hotkey P, zoom in here, click on this anchor point. I'll change this color to something light. The neat thing about this is like we're now creating an actual three-dimensional object, so it looks like a cube has shown up there. There's my semicolon disappearing, and you can see a three-dimensional shape. I can also, like once I have that, I can group it together, and if you've drawn something once in Illustrator, you can always use it or duplicate it. So I can draw and copy these pieces on the grid, so it creates this perfect arrangement of those three things. I can also copy a piece, pull it off to the side, and then scale it so it gets a lot bigger. So I'm going to put this here, and then I'll scale it up 1, 2, and 3. So this is this piece right here, and so I can put it in the background and then hit arrange. I can put it in location, then hit arrange, send to back, and it puts it behind there. And so this is kind of a neat way to like start building building a three-dimensional object from things that you've previously created. Last thing I'm going to do is just like maybe build like a little bit of, a shelf or a pathway that's going around it. And so I can do that by just going in here. I'm going to bring my grid out again. And in this case, I'm just going to kind of like build around here. So I'm going to go and get my pen tool. I'm going to click once here, click once there. I'm going to come all the way back to there. Come all the way to here, close it up, and I'll hit right click, arrange, send to back. Kind of creates a pathway for us to sit on. Get my pen tool. Always make sure that you're deselecting your objects that you previously drew, just so that when you use the pen tool you don't delete anchor points mistakenly. So here I'm kind of creating a little platform for this whole thing to sit on. Once I finish, I can hit I from my eyedropper tool and I can click on something so that we get those same planes with the same colors. So there's our three-dimensional object kind of showing up there. Now it's really up to you, like how complicated you want to design this. And so with that grid, once you finish something, you can copy it. You can also like put it on top of something, and you can get some kind of complicated forms starting to show up here. So play around with it, and really I encourage you to play with repeating those forms to get more complicated organizations going on there. So what does this actually look like? Eventually I ended up using even my 3D extrude and bevel, so effect, 3D materials, 3D classic, extrude and bevel. So I used that to create these archways. So I started with a flat rectangle with a circle on top, and then I did a 3D extrusion at the isometric right and left plane to create those archways. I also used the grid to create these steps, and then in order to make them not look so big, I took them and I scaled them to 50%, and that just makes them look a lot smaller, so that when you take them and stick them behind something, they don't look all that bad. They're not like big clunky big stairs. And then the last thing I did is I ended up just like taking things that I drew, and I ended up just kind of like sticking them together. So I repeated the buildings on top of each other to create these kind of cool looking temples. Again, these are just like stacked one on top of the other to create this three-dimensional little isometric cityscape. You can also see I incorporated my little maze in there just to make this building look a little bit more cool. So for this assignment, I want you to use the isometric grid to design perhaps a house, and then for the next challenge I want to see if you can actually make a two-story house using that initial thing that you built. And that'll be it for our demo.